Hey everyone out there, how's it going? Welcome to Screen Speak. It's the podcast that's all about movies, life, and so much more. I'm the host, producer, the creator, the architect.
Who are you? I am the architect.
Jordan Anderson, that's my name. This is my podcast, so thanks so much for being here and for listening, and I do sincerely hope that while you're here, you're enjoying yourself and your time spent here on Screen Speak. In this episode, I'm joined by Freese, the festival director, and Scott Chrisman, the festival founder, from the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival. Now, Eric and Scott, they had previously joined me for an episode a good while back before this year's 2023 festival happened to help promote it, but this time they're back with me to help break down how this year's festival went, as well as to reflect on it with me and talk about what's coming next for the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival. Now, I'll tell everybody right up front, there's a lot to unpack in this one. Outside of our own general thoughts on how the festival went, we talk about a lot of the surprises that came out of it and feedback that came from the audience, the importance of volunteers during the festival, and the importance of sponsors, lessons that were learned, and much, much more. And I gotta tell you, everybody, and I wasn't thinking that this would happen when I was putting this episode together, but this episode's a bittersweet one for me. The Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival was my first film festival. Not only that I attended, but one that I was a part of directly with this podcast. And furthermore on that, getting to have my podcast just be on site for this festival was an amazing opportunity. Because up until that point, I had never really done anything like that. I had steadily been recording and developing the podcast prior and putting out episodes for sure, but I hadn't had that local quote-unquote notoriety, if you will, to be able to have it out there in the public for all to be able to see and experience with me. And just to me, the whole experience just really felt like I had leveled up the podcast in a way and taken it to its natural quote-unquote next step. And I think because of that, it really helped me to put myself out there, to get Screen Speak's name out there, and seriously gave me some more confidence that this podcast has some real merit and it actually has something that's worth saying. And that feeling alone, everybody, I just want to try to express this, even though it's difficult. It's really hard to put in the words. Anyone out there that's listening that's a fellow content creator or aspiring creative or artist, you're going to get where this is coming from. It's huge to be able to have direct feedback from your peers, from your community, telling you nice things about what you're doing, telling you that this is a good thing that you're doing, and encouraging you to do this and to keep doing it. It's really emotional for me. I mean, it really truly is. Just being able to interact with filmmakers that were in attendance at this thing, getting the talk with the volunteers of the festival and getting general audience members to come up and talk to me at the festival and connect with me and learn about Screen Speak. It was amazing. It just simply put was amazing. So message to everybody out there that's listening that I met at CRIFF. I'm just going to refer to the festival as CRIFF from this point. I love meeting you. I really sincerely love meeting you, and I hope that we can stay connected going forward into the future. And I'm not just saying that. During this year's CRIFF, I was able to record 6 episodes on site. And I really enjoyed going back and getting to listen to those conversations play out and cutting them together and putting them out there for you all to enjoy. Simply put, I really enjoyed my time at this festival. And with this conversation, it marks the last one that I'm going to be putting out to you all that has anything to do with the Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival for the 2023 year. It was fun having the last few episodes be part of a series that all tied together around this one special thing, this festival. So after this, it's back to more new content with myself, guests, and some other creative surprises that I have coming down the pipe, but I don't want to spoil to you all just yet. And don't get me wrong, I'm all too happy to be doing that, to be plowing ahead into the unknown. But again, it was just nice to be able to have some steady content for a while that was all focused around this awesome festival. Oh, big O. On the subject of film festivals, I can tell you this with some certainty. The Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival will not be the only film festival that this podcast is going to have involvement with in 2023. Meaning, I got a special announcement coming for you all. I can't say it just yet because there's some details that are still being finalized, but as soon as those details are solidified, I will let you know about it, I promise. good things are coming with it, and exciting things for that matter. And I can't wait to share it once it's all solidified and said and done. But I can't share it just yet. But I promise you, CRIFF is not the only festival that ScreenSpeak is going to be having some involvement with this year. So that is super, super exciting. All right. Now, before I let the conversation loose, I have some quick shout outs and plugs for you all. If you haven't done so already, or this is your first time here, do me a favor and hit that follow button and the bell so that you're not missing out on any other content that's coming from ScreenSpeak. You can likewise do the same on ScreenSpeak's Instagram and Facebook. It takes just a few seconds to do, and it's a real quick way to show your support to this podcast. As for shoutouts, there were a lot of people and organizations that played a crucial role, in my opinion, during this 2023 Cedar Rapids Film Festival. And they not only made it possible, but I think they just really made the experience more enjoyable for everyone that was involved with that festival. And for the record, none of these people or places that I'm about to mention are sponsors of the podcast, though maybe now that I'm thinking about it out loud, they should be. I just genuinely wanted to give them some love because deep down, I think they deserve it. So here we go. Mandy Maring, she was a volunteer and intern coordinator for the festival. She was a really awesome lady on site that was there that I met, and I noticed throughout the whole festival that she was working her ass off to make sure that everything flowed seamlessly and that all the volunteers knew what they were doing, so I had to give a shout out to Mandy. Collins Road Theaters. They hosted the festival, and I think they really provided a welcoming space for all the creatives that were present. Produce Iowa. I didn't really even know who Produce Iowa was before getting involved with this festival, but I gotta tell you, everybody, they're worth looking into. They help connect the state of Iowa's creatives and provide them all opportunities to grow and do a lot more with their film careers and other creative pursuits that they may have. Sweetopia. They provided delicious food for the festival that I think I ate entirely way too much of, with great satisfaction, I might add. And lastly, musician and artist Elizabeth Von Presley and Stillwater Coffee for keeping everybody there caffeinated and overall very happy. Now, if anybody wants to learn more about any one of those places or people, do check out the description of this episode. All the links are there, very easy to navigate through. All right, that's it. Thanks again for being here, everybody. Love you all. Enjoy the episode. I can't thank you enough of both of you guys, just for having me be a part of the festival, and obviously you guys both being back on here. I was actually really excited to do this follow-up because going through the festival with you guys was obviously a whirlwind of an experience, but mostly in a positive way, I would say. But you guys brought me a card, so I'm gonna try to actually read this on air. Is that okay?
I think so.
Is there anything weird in here or something?
I don't think I wrote anything weird.
Because one very nice touch on this, because in my day world that I currently am in, where it's the world of finance, we actually usually tell people to do the handwritten cards because, yes, we can do an email and you can do a text and video calls and stuff like that, but there's something about the pure act of writing down words at length on a piece of paper, on a card, and looks like you did cursive too.
Oh yeah, and I have horrible handwriting.
It can't be any worse than mine. All right, let's see. So this says, Jordan, on behalf of the festival staff, attendees, and filmmakers, I want to express my appreciation for the publicity and continuing coverage you have given the 2023 Cedar Rapids Independent Film Festival. It says CRIFF here, and look at that. I'm halfway through, and I still read it perfectly fine.
It's great. You're doing great.
We have received nothing but compliments for the... Oh, I just hit my first one. What is that?
Event.
Oh, for the event. I apologize. For the event, and many filmmakers can't wait until next year. Excellent. ScreenSpeak's promotional help and your setup assistance were valuable elements to creating a memorable experience for everyone, and I look forward to continuing our partnership in the future. Thanks, Eric. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Seriously, thank you.
The publicity, your listeners may not realize that you also had a hand in helping us set up stuff.
Sure.
Which was great. Also, many hands make short work. So
I'm definitely keeping this. I actually am a person that when it comes to the meaningful cards, if this was frankly like the half-ass like Happy New Year or like Christmas card, you get about like a week of shelf life, and then I'm like right. Pitch. But these are the ones I save. I literally have like a box in the back for the meaningful stuff.
Nice.
So thank you.
You can
seriously.
recycle it in 10 years instead of immediately.
That's true. It's a good move to dodge the Happy New Year in this one.
I do. I really do appreciate that, though. It's very nice. Thank you. So, guys, just the festival is done this year now, 2023 at least, right? I just want to go immediately into what your thoughts were, each of you, on how overall you felt it went.
I was thrilled. I think it went terrific. We had a few little snags here and there, but I think from a technical standpoint, it went really very smoothly. I think from a working with the filmmakers and serving the audience members, I think went very well. We had very few issues. In fact, nothing comes to mind off the top of my head. I think it was successful, and we've received nothing but praise and good compliments from filmmakers and people that attended on just what a great time they had, how much fun it was, how the filmmakers felt like their contributions were valued. They felt like we cared about the films, and they felt like we cared about making sure people had a good experience.
Yeah. Now, how did I know you said there was a lot of feedback. Was that just directly on site at the festival? Like, did anybody bother to, send you, like, a direct email or a call or, like, anything like that?
I've had a few emails.
That's nice.
Yeah. A few filmmakers who have said, I can't wait for next year is going to be great.
That's awesome.
I plan to enter again. Thanks a lot. We did a follow-up email couple days after the festival just to kind of wrap things up, see if they needed anything. Of course, for the official selections and the winners, we offer the ability to get duplicate trophies, duplicate certificates, and whatnot. So we have kind of a final correspondence with them, and a lot of them replied saying, "Hey, that was was great. Had a great time. Thanks for everything you did." And things of that nature.
That's awesome. Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I would echo all of that. There's always a few things behind the scenes where you go, there was this thing or that thing, but there's very little for bumps or hiccups. The thing that always amazes me, and this year was no different, was even though we added extra time, is it's blink and you miss it. You're so involved in all of it. And we added, setting up the VIP lounge. We had an extra day of Thursday to set up. We had more time screening on Friday. And then more time on Sunday. Now, I didn't get in for much of that because I was running the judges' critiques in the other room. But so now we're essentially 3 full days plus an extra day of setup, and it still just goes by in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So you've really got to. I've been reminded over the years you've got to take a moment and just kind of stand there and enjoy it for a bit, because otherwise it's over and you go, my goodness, with that whole 6-8 months or whatever, and it's
just like a wedding.
Yep,
very much so. Yeah.
I mean, because I was married last year, and I had very similar advice, because it takes like so much legwork just to put such a seemingly short time span together. Now, granted, weddings are much different than a film festival, but yeah, I mean, I think it's important that like after all the hustle and bustle, like you got to remember why you're there and doing it. I mean, you guys ultimately are movie fans. I mean, obviously, like you love the state of Iowa, you love the filmmakers that are here, and ultimately that's why you bust your ass to put this on for the people.
Sure,
right? I think my thoughts on it, I'll tell you, it's fairly lengthy. I'll try to. I mean, I know this is a podcast, but I'll see how well I can structure this. So, take it day by day. So, first off, kind of leading up into things, you guys allowing me to sit in on board meetings and kind of just get a bird's eye view, if you will, to the process of putting it together, granted, I think I came in on the tail end of it, so I'm not sure if every meetings are always like how the ones I sat in on, because I and I don't mean that like in a bad way. I just think it's close to game time, and it's like we got to kind of make sure that we are not missing a single detail. Like that's what it felt like at least at that part.
I think that's a great deal of them. We have a task sheet and we have a list of things that need to get accomplished by X date or prior to the festival and it's a matter of being able to check boxes off on that list and being able to assign jobs to various volunteers. Mandy Maring, who kind of she's sort of our HR and volunteer coordinator, an intern coordinator, does a fantastic job of delegate. I am not the world's best delegator, and she does a spectacular job of assigning tasks and delegating tasks to various people who she feels are going to have the best strengths to complete those tasks. Frankly, without Mandy, I don't think we would have been nearly as successful as we were, just because she is very good at managing the human aspect of the event.
Is this her first year being involved with the festival?
She's been involved off and on since probably 2009.
Sure.
We've had a lot of people that take a hiatus, whatever, and come back. Going, I really miss that environment. It's a lot of fun. But she's one of those people that keeps us on track because a lot of us were creative, or at least started as creative people, and so we're kind of hard to corral sometimes, and having someone that's got that level-headed operational sort of thought of, hey, we got to get through this list, is very helpful to keep us on track.
Well, and I felt like just the sheer amount of all the things. I mean, one is just impressive from a work standpoint, because you're like, my God, it's like there's all these little things that maybe the average person might not be aware of, but it all has to be done. But I think what I enjoyed about sitting in on it was that there was never like any question about what needed to be done. Like, it was never like, I'm kind of like unsure of like the direction and stuff. It was very direct, but still like respectful with how it was done, where it's just like, okay, Blake, are you doing this? Yes? No? Okay, great. Move on. Like, just kind of down the line like that. And I know that takes time to get to that point, and I'm sure from the beginning it probably wasn't like that. But.
Sure. Well, and it's a challenge in some respects for Scott and myself, because so much of that stuff is in our heads already from years of doing it, that communicating the expectations and what needs to be done and how things are done is something we really have to concentrate to do, because we have a shorthand. We know this stuff, and so it requires us to be very articulate with describing how something has to be accomplished with to a new volunteer, or telling them what the system is for XYZ.
I found that apparent, especially at least on Friday, I think it was, when we're starting, or maybe it was Thursday. It's kind of a blur. But when you're starting to set up some of that equipment, and I forgive me, I don't know all the names of all the like the camera stands and the lights fixtures and everything. And that's, to me, an instance where you need to be very specific for people that aren't handling this equipment like on a day-to-day, to just make them feel comfortable. Like, okay, I'm not going to break it. Like, if I touch it,
Right. Sure. And part of it is explaining some of the why and some of the background. And like Eric said, we've got such a shorthand after 20 times around doing this that if you don't explain it to people in a little more detail, sometimes they don't pick up some of the nuanced things that you go, oh yeah, back in such and such year we learned you definitely got to do this, this, and this, because otherwise this other thing happens. So make sure we download that to everybody, and in a respectful way, but just this is how this process works, and if we don't do it, then other things happen.
Well, and you guys did I thought you guys did a good job at corralling the energy sometimes in those meetings, because you got some young volunteers and whatnot, and some of them are energetic and they're not always focused. They're going their screens and doing stuff, but like there was a couple times where you had to put the hammer down, and just be like, hey guys, like, come on. Like we gotta stay on point here.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but I think that's normal.
Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
I mean, and by and large, the volunteers, the interns that we had were outstanding. They really put in a lot of effort and did a lot of work, to help, bring this thing to fruition. And we're completely thankful of their, their involvement.
I think they all really enjoy the process, which I have a section on here. I'm going to talk just strictly about them. But to finish my thoughts that I had just overall about the festival, when Friday came around, I admit Friday was the day that I was actually more nerve-wracked than the other days. I wasn't expecting to be necessarily, but I also tried to remember is like this was my first time being on a festival, being like actually part of like a program in a sense, kind of just understanding like, okay, like this is how the auditoriums are playing the stuff, the attendees are coming in here, I got my table here, the recording space is over here, how often do I bounce back and forth? So I have like a million thoughts, kind of going through your head, and you're also trying to be in what I would call like that marketer mode, where it's like, okay, like I'm going to be a little more social than like your normal self, because you have to be a face to a brand and you're putting yourself out there and being like, hi, hello, and it's a very specific mindset. But I find for myself it takes me a second to get there. Once I'm there, I'm good. Like, but it takes a second to warm up, and so Friday to me kind of felt like the warm up day, if you will, which was fine, because Saturday was kind of like the day. Right. But still, Friday, like by the time like the evening rolled around, I think I felt good about things. Like I had like a sense of, kind of like what's what. People were being friendly from the get-go. I can say that with all the attendees. And then Saturday was the day where it's like, that's like the wedding day to me, where I'm like, it's just a blur. Like you're just kind of being pulled around in the conversations. People are wanting to talk to you, which was good. I can give a brief shout out to the attendees that, not the attendees, the volunteers. They were great during the Q&A sections in that they handled them in a timely manner, but then I don't know if they got instructed to do this, but they were saying like, hey, Screen Speak's over there, like go talk to Jordan after like your stuff. And they got into a rhythm of that, and that was bringing more conversation my way, which is good because, my own attempts doing it, a few of times I got told no. Some people were yes, but then, you got to wait till they have free time and stuff like that. But they really helped out a lot with that.
Oh, good.
And then I think, honestly, the rest of the thoughts I had on it was just being grateful for everything I learned about it. I mean, between just seeing how a festival runs and operates, that's an education. Seeing the pre-work go into it, being a part of the stuff itself, and then just the setup, like you said. I kind of felt like a volunteer in a sense because I was just kind of doing stuff because I didn't care. I'm like, there's work, it needs to be done. Like, let's go. And I do really like that type of camaraderie and collaboration where it's like no one cares about like position and title at that point. You're just trying to execute. I really, really thrive in environments like that. And then I would also just say that just talking with all the people, I mean, learning about their perspectives, learning that Iowa is actually not such a quote unquote small place, film wise. Like there's actually plenty of people here that are doing things, and there's a lot of people that actually are doing some really interesting things. I know before we hit record on this, we were talking about Jake Daniels and Michael Huntington. They were filmmakers and attendees at the festival. One of them's opening a freaking film studio.
I know.
Like that's a huge undertaking, and that's big. And just like learning like stuff like that, it gives you fuel to continue and know that there's other people that are itching to kind of get seen and also feel connected and heard. And I think
and that's always been a big part of the festival is just helping helping those filmmakers meet each other, giving them an environment where they feel like they're amongst friends. Even if they haven't met yet, but enabling them to make those connections and foster those connections. It's different now than it was 20 years ago in that the internet, social media stuff obviously makes us more connected in some ways. But still, to be able to sit down in a theater and watch somebody's film and then afterwards say, "Hey, I really liked what you did there," I got an idea for something.
It's always been nice to see people that come back year after year, and it ends up being like a cross-pollination of artistry. And if you look deep into the credits this year, I think you'd see an awful lot of pairings from years past of this person showed up with a film 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They met up with a couple more people. They ended up with, everybody's on the same batch of credits for a couple of years, and they just find their group of people that really they enjoy working with and mesh well with, and they turn out even better workers, and they've got different people wearing different hats.
There was the one gentleman, I can't think of his name off the top, and I'm skipping ahead to when you guys get to the Eddies, the award ceremony, but you gave, it may have been a certificate, I'm not 100% sure, to, was it like that crazy Mike guy?
Insane Mike.
Insane Mike.
Insane Mike Saunders and Jason Bollinger, Prescribed Films.
Yeah, I think you guys said that, like, they had been entrants and just participants for, like...
Since 2005, I think it was.
Right. That's a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think just recognizing even like that, I mean, I could tell like his emotions, and he was sincere. He's just like, oh my god, like this is so crazy.
Sure. They've just, I mean, they enter and they enter and they enter, and some of the stuff is great. Some of it's okay. So, occasionally they have one that falls flat, but I mean, out of 26, 29, I can't remember. I wrote it down. The number of films that they entered, I think, out of 20-something, 29-ish, only 6 films haven't been selected. Yeah. So, I mean, that speaks to some measure of skill and success that they've had.
Well, the greater measure, I think, in addition to not only their entries, is you would see them show up in other people's credits as well.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty recognizable folks, so it's easy to track them down in the lobby, and just due to their genre and their willingness to help other people. I've seen them in makeup and special effects for several other different films, and just generating that camaraderie of we'll come help you out with that. So they've been involved in a lot,
and they're the nicest, most friendly guys. I remember the first time that they showed up, and at the time Jason was a big guy with lots of facial hair and many facial piercings, and he looked like, and he was wearing probably some sort of heavy metal or horror movie T-shirt or something. And I was like, this guy's kind of freaky. And then you talk to him, and he's like the sweetest teddy bear of a guy. And it's just so cool because they make a lot of really crazy horror, have done a lot of gross out type films. Sure. And they're the nicest guys. They're just so much fun.
I'm curious about, on the subject of the movies itself, what were your favorites this year?
Oh, we can't play favorites.
I mean, you gotta have like one or two that you really liked.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to pick favorites because they, all the films, all 51 films are in the festival because they were well done, because they had good story, because they were produced with a high degree of production value. So, I mean, you could pick a favorite based on your own personal interests. Sure. But I mean, from a standpoint of saying, God, which was the best film that showed? You can't do
that. Yeah, no, that'd be tough.
I loved Reveille, the World War II period piece. Wonderful film. I love Livestock on the Land, which was the documentary about regenerative farming practices done by Practical Farmers of Iowa. I thought that was terrific. It's hard to.
Everybody's got their own niche or achievement within their own film. The one that sticks out to me, and I think it's just because they were so early on in their career, is Zach Dies at 9, which I think it was a high school production. Is that right? And it was so self-aware and just found itself it played with tropes and kind of winked to the audience a few times. It's like, well, that's really smart for that level of filmmaker. Right. So that kind of stuff, and then the signature people who have, you can expect this, that, and the other thing from repeat people, but every film delivered something interesting, and I feel like I always learned something new about the area and ways you could use a location or, all these special things we have in Iowa of either stories that originated here, things I didn't realize, and I learned something every year. I think the Livestock on the Land was really powerful in the way they went after telling that story and interviewing the farmers. But yeah, there's always something out of each one of these. You go, that's an interesting shot. That's an interesting take on how to do that. I wouldn't have thought to put that script together the way that you did. So there's something interesting in all of them.
I think, I mean, like, it's going back to, like, the favorite or, like, the best. I mean, I usually roll my eyes when someone's like, what's your favorite movie? Because I'm like, oh, God. Like, there's too many. But I could say, like, some standouts to me, The King's Eye is one that comes to mind for me.
King's Eye was fantastic.
Just because that one, and I talked with Tony Cross, I think is his name. I did get a conversation with him that'll be out in the future, but I liked his movie because there was very minimal use of dialogue, but I was still able to follow the story, and there was still very good visual sense with it. I think I joked with him, I'm like, if my deceased father left me a scavenger hunt, well, I ain't gonna find it because I'm so terrible with terrible puzzles. But I really appreciated, like, the imagination behind that one. It was really interesting. And then some of the other ones that you mentioned, Reveille, I had those gentlemen on the podcast as well. Just, the fact that their German story is just, their immigration story is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
And those two dudes are very fascinating people. Some of the other ones I'm trying to think that stands out. I have the program right
Between
here.
the Lines is great. Like I said, I can go down the list and just start saying Letters was awesome. Large was fun.
The Way It Was. I did like that one as well.
Great.
I'm trying to think of it.
It's hard. It's hard to just say, oh, this was my favorite.
And The Bridge. Yeah, I was going to give a shout out to The Bridge. That one was good too. But yeah, all of them. Even if I didn't
Standing Catlett. Or it's not Standing Catlett, Standing Strong, Elizabeth Catlett. Sorry, you just got a peek behind the curtain there of our shorthand for referring to films.
But, like, some of them too, like, just to Scott's point, not every film, like, you connect with on there, because as you said, everybody kind of has their own niche, and some movies I would certainly say are experimental in tone and kind of what they're trying to achieve. And The Short, I kind of learned just from watching so many of them in a quick time frame. It's not the same, obviously, narrative structure of, like, a feature film where, you have, like, a good, cushy 2 hours to tell a story. Like, you are challenged, certainly, with what you're able to convey in a short amount of time. One of them, I think, was, like, 3 minutes, for
Sure.
one or two of them.
Sure.
But as you said, it's like you see a camera angle that you like. You see a way that something was structured. You see that there is a message being said without something being said. So I found there was a ton of different things to appreciate. What were some surprises at the festival? And whether that is just like a film or just things that, you guys have been doing this for a while and you're like, I was not expecting that at all at the festival this year.
One of the surprises I had, just I didn't know what to expect from the Reveille crew. They're German immigrants. They did this war picture. Didn't know anything about them. I was just kind of I wasn't concerned at all. I was just curious. I wonder what these guys are like. They might be interesting, or they might be offensive. They might, who knows what they could be. You think about that anytime you're wondering. I like to think that my feeling is that any filmmaker that's coming to the festival is going to be a great person, and I was blown away with how interesting they were to talk to, and how. I think I don't know how many conversations I had with them just about their process and things, and I guess I came out of it just really, really respecting them, and I think I would consider them friends at this point. I would say that was one surprise. I guess I'd been away for a little while, so I didn't necessarily know who knew who, but I found it interesting that there was like these filmmakers that kind of, like Scott said, how you can look through the credits and see filmmakers who have met past festivals and kind of working. I was interested to see how many there were filmmakers that were in each other's movies, like especially when I was looking at the red carpet and saying, hey, they're posing with. They know why are they in the picture with? Oh, because they're in that. Oh, they worked, and it was neat. There were a couple of different groups where it was different people than you would expect. It's like, why is this person sitting with this person, or what? How do they know each other? And trying and then talking to them, at the after party or whatever, and just hey, how do you know so and so? Oh yeah, well we worked on this and that, and then it was just kind of neat to see that sort of thing happening.
I think it's interesting on that there is like this. I don't want to say hidden community because like that's not right, but it does seem like at least at this festival there is like an inner community that's there where it's like people work on each other's films, or people are familiar with this festival, or like, hey, I saw you on this or that, and there is kind of like this little community that forms, I think, as a result of going to something like CRIFF or possibly other festivals that are in the state of Iowa too.
Sure. Mm-hmm. And we can't take credit for that. I mean, obviously, a lot of these people meet wherever they meet. And they get involved, and they, help out on others' films. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they meet at CRIFF, sometimes they meet at other festivals, sometimes they meet on the street.
Yeah.
But or at school or wherever.
I definitely think from just the amount of people I met, I mean, there was just. I mean, we keep talking about the guys from Reveille just because like they have such a unique background, but there was plenty of people I met there that just had such different life experience than me. I mean, like a ton. And I know Scott, he gave a wonderful speech at one point. I want to say it was before the Eddies, but I'm not 100% certain, so don't quote me on that. He gave a speech at one point talking about like how, film makes people kind of empathize for others, gives you certainly different perspectives on other people, and that can only be done through the power of film. Something along those lines. You said it much better than what I just butchered there. But I just definitely think that's true because, again, like there's just so many different people that you'll only, to me, meet in that type of a setting. I mean, I don't know where else you're likely to get that group of people together and have them form relationships and network from any other setting than a film festival like this.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I think it's a great medium for empathy and for understanding. There are so few places where you can step into someone's shoes so completely as you can in a character in a movie or a setting of a movie. And I think that carries over to the crew and the production folks as well. I'm never going to be an astronaut. I'm a long time out of being a small child, but those are things you can easily get into to say, oh, I'm this character for 20 minutes. I'm this character for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I'm experiencing something that happens in relationships that aren't my own and parts of the world that aren't my own. But people are a lot more open to it, I think. Well, hey, come watch a movie. Oh, yeah, I'll watch it. What's this about? Oh, it's this thing and that thing. Oh, okay. Oh, gosh, yeah, I really understand why these events hurt this person or these events meant a lot to this person. And it's a good way to get past some of our cultural differences, geographic differences, enough to say, yeah, I understand that. That's part of the human experience. And it's a good place to experiment with some of those ideas and walk somebody through a character that doesn't have your same background.
I think it's also good, too, when you get surprised, because I expect, like, you guys have been doing this, forgive me for not knowing off the top. When was the first year of the festival? 2004?
One.
Okay, my apologies, 2001. But I'm sure during that time you've met an eclectic bunch of people and lots of artistic types and creative types and et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sure you still bump into people or meet new ones that surprise you and you're like, my God, like still to this day, like there's so many different life experiences and people out there in the world to connect with. So you never really see it all is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Sure. I mean, there's always someone new. There's always someone we haven't seen, someone we haven't spoken to, someone whose work we have not, viewed yet.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it fresh every year.
Yeah. I also think that, frankly, life is too short to be able to know everything, do everything, see everything. There's no way. My wife jokes that she says I need like 10 lifetimes to do everything that I try to sometimes fit into a single day because I usually have a very big to-do list and do not get through every single bit of it. But all that being said, I just think it's really great that film festivals, and again, CRIFF, no exception to it, just allows for those opportunities to happen. Because I certainly learn things that, open my mind to things I didn't know about, and I think it does promote a sense of understanding and certainly not just empathy, but also like freedom, sure. I guess, just to allow these people to do what they're doing.
Right. Well, and not even just the film itself, watching a film that's got a different perspective or immerses you in a different world, but then being able to actually meet the filmmaker who made the film and talk with them after the fact, and if you were fascinated by something about that film, the environment or the characters or something, you could talk to the filmmaker and really do a deep dive into it and learn even more about the topic or the characters.
Did you guys get to talk to any of the audience members, like not strictly filmmakers but just general attendees? Because I'm sure there were some, right?
I mean, a
little bit,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to manage the event and make certain that we're talking to the filmmakers and making certain that everything technical is happening correctly. But when we get an opportunity, we love to talk to the audience members because they're able to give us a perspective that's not a filmmaker perspective.
Yeah, and I say that because I'm sure most of the audience, obviously, for this is people that are aspiring filmmakers. They're going to film school. They are having goals, dreams to work in some form of production or whatever, right? But then I also know there's just people that like movies, right? And they just want to go check out movies that's not, the latest Marvel movie or something they've seen 10,000 times. Like, go see a different slice of life in a different setting. So I was just curious if there was a lot of people this year that came that were just strictly regular folk that wanted to see something different.
Sure, I think there's often general audience there as well. I don't know what percentage, but and that's where I think some of you're talking about surprise things, and I guess it's not maybe surprising, but I'm always encouraged to see them have those conversations with the filmmakers and ask questions as part of the Q&A things, even to reveal a new perspective on things that we feel like we already know. I mean, obviously we live in Iowa. Farming's a pretty big part of the state. I grew up on a farm. I feel I know a little bit about farming, but the difference is I watched the documentaries and some of these other movies this time. It's a different world. It's 30 years out of any experience that I had, and I had a different kind of experience anyway because my family, it was a hobbyist is the wrong word, but it wasn't our main source of income. It was we have a farm, and my parents work in other places, so it wasn't like that was our sole source of income. But then to see people who hate my farm is my entire livelihood, and the things that are changing about that, and the things that are challenges of that right now, it's a whole different world. And I was encouraged by the way the audiences got involved in some of those Q&As. Tell me more about that. I'd like to learn about that idea, and I didn't realize that. So hopefully they walk away with a different exposure to something that's been right next to them this whole time.
Yeah, and while I didn't really, I didn't talk to a lot of non-filmmaker attendees, I did sit in on a number of the Q&A sessions where there were lively discussions happening between your average film goer and the filmmakers, and there were people that were very interested in the process, behind the films, or the story, or if it was a documentary, what is the subject of this documentary doing now? What happened to this family, or things like that. So
how'd you get connected to them? How did you?
Yeah.
They let you into their world as intimately as they did.
It's definitely an interesting thing when we look at filmmaking, just the amount of intimacy that is on display. Not just obviously like actors like in front of the camera and whatnot, because of course if you have like a cry scene, well then that's kind of apparent that they have to be emotional on camera while people are watching. But the whole collaborative process of doing it is a very personal thing, and you have to express vulnerability when you're doing it, whether you're in a acting setting or not. You're still all having to work together, and it's not always going to go according to plan. But yeah, I just find that process very fascinating, and I don't really see that type of collaboration in other fields, if you will. So.
Sure. I mean, there's not a lot of room in filmmaking for being fake, at least not in the
camera catches it.
Not in the independent realm, because you're reliant on every member of your cast, every member of your crew being their authentic selves, and not putting on pretenses and not not doing things that get in the way of the production being executed.
Yeah. just curious about the volunteers. I know I said I was going to talk about that at some point, but what was their feedback like? I mean, I'm sure some of them, they probably never volunteered for the festival before. Maybe you had a couple repeats. Not 100% sure, but I was just curious what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, they had, the ones that we had a lot of contact with during the festival had a lot of fun. I think the folks that show up on the day of, we absolutely need them. And they bring an extra energy to it that maybe we're starting to get kind of tapped out on by the time we get to the event. But they, I saw people working at the lobby table who had a lot of fun interacting with the filmmakers, and we had enough volunteers that got to go in and watch a couple things, come out, talk to the filmmakers as they came by, and I think they really enjoyed just the community interaction of the event.
Yeah, and we have a lot of college students, interns, and it was great to have a good number of students as volunteers because they were able to trade out. They were able to kind of get exposed to whatever area that they were interested in. If they wanted to host host the screenings, or run a Q&A, or they wanted to be a photographer or videographer, or they wanted to be in the VIP lounge, or they wanted to help you find subjects for interview. I think it gave those interns a lot of exposure to just different things, and I think they were able to do the things they wanted to do, and maybe experience things that they didn't necessarily know what they wanted to do.
And they get a good glimpse of the next level. When you start talking to someone, oh yeah, I went to the University of Iowa, or I went to UNI, I went to this place, that place, and you go, oh yeah, well they're just like me, they're doing it, and how did you do that? How did you take the next step? Who did you get in contact with? Can I help you out with your next production? Yeah, those kind of things. So they're asking those questions just like you would of any other career of, what do I do next?
Isn't that interesting with a lot of careers, though? I mean, like, not just the world of film, but if you really think about it, there's so many professions where there is definitely no such thing as a clear roadmap from point A to point B, right? Sure. I find the creative field is especially challenging on that front, where some people get so intimidated by it, or it seems so not stable because you're jumping from one job to the next. I sometimes wish more people would be more open and transparent about that process. But the festival, to your guys' point, people are open there. You can ask them anything they want, and they are happy to answer the questions. And like I said, I learned a great deal just talking with them and figuring out how people get connected and just how they raise finance for things too, just money.
Oh, sure.
Just making these projects actually happen and like feeding crew during a shoot, and just logistical things like that have to be done that you don't always think about.
Right. Because you don't have the resources of a studio backing, financial or personnel or otherwise.
I always love the term that I've heard it from independent filmmakers that I've just watched variously online, but I love when they say like they're scrappy. I love hearing that, because that means like they don't have nearly enough time. They got like no money. They're running on fumes for sleep, but like just something happens and they're just able to put the pieces together and put their creative juices into one pot and just make something beautiful. It's fantastic. What did you all think about Collins Road Theater, again, just as the venue? I mean, I know that's been there for years and years, but, I know a few of the people I talked with, they really like the theater.
It's a great venue. It's got enough space. It's comfortable. The management is terrific. I think we put a lot of pressure on Bruce this year to try some new things, and expanding the schedule, and using some more space and all these other things, and he bent over backwards to help us make things good. It's just a good venue.
Yeah. And in addition to him, his whole staff is just fantastic.
Oh yeah,
it's just the kind of theater you want to visit because they treat you well, and our festival goers who it's not maybe their regular theater, their hometown theater, they're from somewhere else. Wow, this is great. Great concessions, great, friendly, helpful, everybody. You couldn't hardly ask for a better place for it to be.
I can certainly say that it's gotten more of my business just from attending the festival. I mean, I'd gone there off and on for years past, but I really think ever since the festival, just last night, I was there and I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. with my mom and my little brother and girlfriend, and one of the people I actually met from the festival, his name was Seth. He was just a general attendee. Like he also I think worked. Can't remember where he worked exactly, but he had heard about it on a website, and he stopped by my booth. He was really nice. We hooked up on Instagram. I saw Dungeons and Dragons with him at the Collins Road Theater.
Nice.
And that's, again, like, that's just like a classic example of just, I met somebody that's like really nice. He likes movies. Hey, I like movies. Let's go watch movies together. Like, we got some common ground. Great.
Cool.
And then he added me to some Snapchat group about the Oppenheimer movie that's coming out in July, and he wants me to see that with him and a group of people. And I'm like, okay, like, sure.
Oh, it looks like it's gonna be cool.
I can't keep up with the Snapchat though. I feel bad, Seth. If you're listening to this, you're super nice. I enjoy Dungeons and Dragons, but there's too many messages in the Snapchat. I can't do it. But anyways, just that happening from the festival is terrific.
Nice.
I was also just curious too if you guys could just walk me through some of the help that the partners brought in, like whether it was the cupcake place, bringing in the treats. I know there were several different sponsors outside of just money that they provided, but if you guys could talk about that.
Sponsors were huge, and sponsors came through for us in a big way. Of course, Collins Road Theater sponsors the event by being the host, and they also sponsor the $1,000 scholarship, which is terrific for a student filmmaker. Produce Iowa sponsors us. Produce Iowa is so supportive of filmmakers and of the filming community and of film festivals in the state. We couldn't do it without them. We had Farmers State Bank this year as the sponsor of the Eddie Award ceremony. That was terrific. It was wonderful to have them. They're a local bank, one of the few local banks remaining, and they're committed to making sure that this is a good community to live in, and that there are interesting cultural things for people to do. And
sure.
And it was great. And Mackenzie Karp came from the bank and helped us with the award ceremony, and that was awesome to have her come. And we're so grateful for them. A shout out to my employer, Wired Production Group, who they allowed me to take a good chunk of my time to work on putting the festival together, but then also provided lots of things like meeting space and computers and other electronics and cameras and
all kinds
a
of
bunch of stuff, along with Nicole Schroeder and Bruce Bingman, two of our staff people who were volunteers at the festival and who went out of their way to help out with things. We had Sweetopia did a fantastic job with providing treats in the VIP lounge.
I ate too many of their Scotcheroos.
I ate a bunch of Scotcheroos. I ate a bunch of blueberry donuts, and I ate a whole lot of kolaches.
But don't you need that sugar to get through all that? I mean,
Sure.
I saw you guys running around. You guys were everywhere. Like, in a good way. I just mean, like, you need the energy to get through all that.
Yeah, I'm powered by donuts. But they kept refilling the tables, and people were, we have lots of pictures of people, scarfing down cinnamon rolls and stuff, and that was awesome. And they just did great. She was Tina Kerslake and her husband Brian just did a super job, and they were so nice and so friendly and so easy to work with. It was it was a blast to work with them.
You guys got terrific photos. I didn't mean to try to interrupt you there, but you guys had terrific photos.
We managed to get over 500 photos shot over the course of the weekend. We had interns going around with one of my cameras and one of their own cameras, and we had everybody had their cell phones out and we're taking pictures. We had just a boatload of photos,
which was nice because you'd go through and review them and go, well, I didn't know they were there. I didn't see that. Well, when did that happen? So it's nice to get some documentation of what went on.
Yes, that was great. Also, on the subject of the VIP lounge, big shout out to Stillwater Coffee and Elizabeth Bond Presley. They provided coffee and hot water for tea and whatnot there too, and I don't survive if I don't have a good influx of caffeine. So that was terrific to have them. R&D Events provided us tables. Again, Wired provided the pipe and drape and the carpeting and some other things there too. It was just
Target sponsored us.
Target sponsored us.
filled in some gaps for us in various supplies and food and drink.
Yeah. So sponsors are huge. We're a nonprofit organization. We run on a shoestring budget. And those bits and pieces. Whether it's a large donation or a small donation, whether it's in kind, whether it's food, whether it's cash, whatever. I mean, that's what makes a nonprofit organization, especially one that runs a big event. I mean, that's what makes it doable.
If I may ask, when you're getting sponsorships, and I'm sure you could talk about this at great length, but I am curious how many, if there's any that just come to you with an interest, or you guys have to do all the outreach, or if there's like ones where like they did it one year, they really liked it, they want to come back. I'm just kind of curious about that side of it. I would say it's about 50-50. There are organizations that, companies there was an in obviously for my company to come and want to sponsor, but I never went to my marketing director and said, hey, do you want to sponsor the festival? She came to me and said, hey, we'd like to sponsor the festival. What can we do? Farmer State Bank, we reached out to them. Produce Iowa, the relationship has been there for years and years.
Several years, yeah.
No.
Sweetopia. Funny thing about the Sweetopia sponsorship was I was just going up and down the stores in the strip mall, handing out ad forms, because we saw advertising in the programs. And I walked in there and I said, I just mentioned, would you like to buy a program ad? And she's like, oh. That's interesting because, and we got in this, and we sat down and had this like half-hour conversation about all the things that she was telling me, and she was showing me different things that she could do. Oh, we could do donuts, we could do collages, we could do cupcakes, and we could put your logo on the cupcakes and the logo on the cookies, and we could do scotcheroos. And I'm like, whoa, and also I'm like sitting there thinking, oh my god, okay, perfect, great, yep, this is great. A lot of it's serendipitous.
But I think it's amazing though, like how. In a way, the simplest part about it is just asking. I mean, like, if you think about it with them, now, I'm not saying it's that simple. You have to put more legwork into it, but I think sometimes people forget, you can get something by just taking the initiative and just being like, hey, I got a thing I'm doing. I think you guys should be a part of it. Let's see if we can do something. And just even by opening up that door, like you just said, all the sweets came flooding in. Yeah, and you would not have anticipated that.
No, it is. It's that opening line, that breaking the ice is really the tough part. Honestly, because I don't know. I mean, there are people that are good at begging for money and things like that. I am not one of them.
Putting out their tin cup.
Exactly. It's but I think one of the best ways to look at that is you're not going and begging for money. You're going to look for a partner, someone who can use the exposure of being part of the festival, someone who has an interest in the people that come to a festival or the things that happen at a festival. Just finding those types of companies and those types of people that have somewhat of a vested interest in what the festival is about and what the festival is doing.
You got to give a shout out to the who are the guys that made the trophies?
That was Ben Fiddler, Fiddlesticks.
Yeah,
he did a tremendous job.
They were cool looking trophies
with those trophies, and that was another thing where the previous award maker was kind of getting out of the business, sort of retiring, and needed something different. And I've known Ben for a number of years. He used to work in the production industry, and I knew that he did a lot of laser engraved signage and cups and all sorts of different stuff. And I had just kind of noodled a little idea and I tossed over to him. I said, hey, is this something, would you be able to do something like this? And he came right back with like, oh man, that's awesome. This is great. Yeah, we can do this and this and this and this. And I'm like, all right, cool. All right, we found our trophies.
It's awesome.
Those are exactly the kind of people you want to find that are in the community already, are interested in making the community a better place through events like this, and it's fun to see them get excited about participating. Ben especially was one of those people, oh yeah, I get to make various awards for various corporate things, but this is something really cool that I get to experiment with and make something
the movie awards. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
just curious for, on the subject of the trophies, the Eddies, the awards. I mean, that's like the Oscars of the CRIFF, right? I mean, not to. I'm sure there's other award things I could probably compare it to, but. What would you guys just experience like just being up on the podium and giving out those awards, especially to some of those first time people that just never got an award before for this type of thing?
That's fun. I mean, because like you said, we have filmmakers who this is their very first award. Tony Cross, for instance, with the King's Eye. This was one of his first films and his first entry.
First festival, I think.
Entry into it was his first festival entry of any sort, and he came out with a couple of different awards. And it's just neat to be able to be that person's first time trophy or award or whatever, and give them that platform to thank the people that they want to thank, and to be able to come back and go back home and say, hey, look, my film did something. It was cool.
What validates their efforts? You were talking about before how it's kind of this wilderness out there of I'm not sure what I'm doing, not sure how well it's going to be received, and so then to show up and get awarded for it, you go, wow, okay, somebody likes what I'm doing. I've succeeded in my goal in making a nice piece. Over the years, it's been good to, especially younger filmmakers who, if you think about it, around here, it's not exactly a top of mind career path. So if you have somebody that can say, hey, I showed up, I entered my film, got accepted, got to bring my parents, it shows up on the big screen, I got an award. Mom and Dad are going to take my college plans a little more seriously now. I've got some options that maybe I didn't have before because they see, my kid's doing something they love, and there's a way for them to do it.
Yeah, well, and that's why we really try and prop up the student filmmakers as much as we do. I mean, with the Student Cinema Sunday and giving out student awards is they're the future of the industry and the future of the art form, and giving them a platform where they can show their work, where they can network, where they can improve their craft. It works to everyone's advantage to continue to build the industry, especially the Iowa Connected filming industry.
Well, and I'm sure so many of those people, and some of the people I personally talk with, they had similar reactions where, of course, being awarded felt great to them, and I know for a fact some of them were just on cloud nine, basically, when getting an award and having the light on them and everything like that. It's great. But then so many of them too, there were some first-time filmmakers, like you said, they're having their stuff seen on a big screen, sometimes in certain cases in front of an audience for the first time. So I felt it was interesting watching just their reaction to their own film in a setting like that.
Sure.
There was a few casually cracked that just I didn't realize the sound sounded like that, blown up. Those little technical things like that when they blow it up on a huge screen.
It's a big stage. I mean, if you think about being on the big screen, that's the one of the pinnacles of where your work could be shown. Yeah. And one of the things we've kind of lost over the years as we've moved into the YouTube era is, you can get a lot more exposure, but you don't get that direct feedback. Mm-hmm. You get, I have 10,000 views, but did anybody like it? Was there any kind of comments about it? Maybe there were some comments, but there's no more honest feedback you'll get than sitting in an auditorium and watching your film with an audience who has no reason to care.
I mean, that's why some of the major studios still do test screenings before they roll out some of their big movies. That's when they know to trim out something or add something here, add something there. Because, comment board is not quite the same as someone just being hi, I'm right here in front of your face. I'm going to tell you exactly what I thought of your movie.
Yeah,
right? And you get that communal shared experience, which we're, as a society, getting further and further away from. You go into a film and you have no preconceived notions about it necessarily or any real background with it, but you're getting honest reaction from not only yourself, but the person next to you, the person a couple rows behind you. You go, they thought that was really funny. How do I feel about that? Okay, I can see
that wasn't supposed to be funny.
Maybe it was, yeah. So as a filmmaker, you're hearing all these things go around. You go, they got the joke, or they didn't get the joke, and there's nothing more sobering than silence when you expect there to be laughter, or laughter where you expect there to be silence, and so you get that direct direct feedback, which you really can't get from a phone or individual viewing.
And certainly not from having your parents watch it, because your parents will always say that it was the best thing they ever saw.
Get nothing but praise there. And this is honest feedback.
Well, it's the interesting thing about filmmaking, isn't it? Where, especially like in the cutting room, post-production, some of the major filmmakers, even, like a Scorsese, like I've heard him, like he'll spend like months in like the editing room, and then he gets nervous as hell and practically has a breakdown when the film releases, because he's like, oh God, is that scene that I sweated over for like 3 months going to be received the right way? And that's the interesting part about the filmmaking experience, and especially people that, like in the independent space, they are not always sure if it's going to connect. And like they might really like it, and some of their friends, or even like you said, the parents are just like, oh, you're great no matter what.
Sure.
But yeah, it's a different ballgame when you put it out there in front of an audience, and also again that puts you in a vulnerable place as well, because it's like, this is me, is me on the screen, and you're doing a judgment of me in some way, and I think that's tough. That's tough.
Sure.
Right. You sit there in the room and you hope people like it.
Right. Yeah, and you might get like, love, dislike, hate, or even worse, I didn't get it. It didn't hit for me. I don't understand what this even was.
I will say this. I will not name who it was, but like they could not have been cooler about it. One of the movies I watched, again, won't say which one. Met the guys that did it. They were super nice, super cool, but they asked me the question. They're like, "Hey, did you see our thing?" I'm like, "I did," and like they were just like, "What you think?" And for a second, I was like, maybe just throw some like politeness and things like that. But
it was interesting.
It was a film.
It's a tricky spot to be in with that.
It was
like,
short.
I don't want to discourage anybody, even if I didn't get it or anything like that. Like it's brave to put a movie out there, and I'm a creative myself. I don't want to get in the way of somebody else's fuel behind that. But that said, for these guys, I just told them, I was like, look, you guys have some interesting things going on, but be honest, I didn't get it. I think I'm pretty sure I said like that. But they took it in good stride. They clearly could tell I wasn't like saying any slight against like their techniques or anything that they were doing. They were just like, yeah, like this guy just didn't like really get it and follow it. But they said they appreciated my honesty. So
cool.
like, okay, I'm like, I'll take it.